The name Todd McFarlane is associated with many things. Rebel, pioneer, businessman. He started as a young baseball phenom from Canada who drew comics as a hobby. From those humble beginnings, Todd McFarlane has managed to leave his stamp on the comic book industry as one of its best artists of all time. His name is renowned among comic book and heavy metal enthusiasts alike. It redefined and became the gold standard on how toys are made worldwide. His name represents ushering in a tidal wave of creators who maintain control of their respective properties and giving these creators a place to call home. Oh, did I forget to mention creating the best-selling #1 independently published comic book character in the 90s? His flagship book for Image Comics, a character called Spawn.
No. I offer you a deal, Mr. Simmons. A deal. I offer you the choice to do something about it. I am giving you the opportunity to do something about it. Don't squander it before I change my mind. Oh, God, no. I wonder, what have I done? All right, goddammit, I'll lead your army. Colonel Simmons, we are all damned.
So basically, he makes a deal with the devil, and he gets duped into leading the armies of hell just for that one chance to see his wife again.
Jesus, Todd. I gotta give it to you. The kids are gonna eat this up.
Well, you know, God willing.
Shortbox Nation, we proudly present to you the man who put the devil in the details, Todd McFarlane. But it's Spawn canon, though.
It is.
It is Spawn canon, which is weird.
It's like Frank Miller.
It's why he has the shoelaces across his face after that, because Batman chucked the Batarang in the middle of his face.
Like laughing. It's like, oh, you cat.
Did you read? Did you read the DC did you read the DC version of that, or because it was Batman Spawn when DC put out their version? And that lineup is crazy. It's like actually good. Well, what am I saying? It's like Chuck Dixon, Doug Monick.
Mensch.
Thank you. Sorry, Mensch. Doug Mensch. Wow, damn. That one was really bad. Mensch. Don't pronounce it. Oh. Common mistake, right? I'm sure everyone
For Botter, yes. Yes. For Botter, yes. We love you. We love you.
Wait, Ashley, how do you pronounce Doug Monick's name? Is it Mensch? Did you pronounce it Mensch?
I mean, not like you pronounce
Damn it.
Yeah.
I was hoping that you were silent because secretly you were like...
Ashley's like, money. I know I say it.
Oh, man. Yo, Shortbox Nation. Welcome to episode 255, I think. 255, yes. This is a special episode, man. We are about to launch into our Artist Spotlight series. For those of you unfamiliar, it is an episode that focused on highlighting and celebrating the career and impact of individual comic book creators. This is our 6th installment of this series. In the past, we've done episodes spotlighting comic book greats like Jack King Kirby, Mike Mignola, Akira Toriyama, Bernie Wrightson, Alex Ross, and we even did a 2-part Stan Lee spotlight as well. So this will be our 6th installment, and it's all about the man, Todd McFarlane, as voted by our Shortbox patrons.
Yes.
So shout outs to everyone in that true believer tier. Want to go ahead and shout out actually our new patrons that joined this week. So shout outs to Cassie Whitley.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cassie. Shout outs to Nick Cangialosi, a.k.a. Hydraberg on Instagram. And then last but not least, he just joined this morning actually, Justin Lane. So shout outs
Justin.
to Cassie, Nick, and Justin for joining the Shortbox Patreon family, and another shout out to our patrons in the True Believer tier who voted on this spotlight. If you want the ability to vote for our episode topics or future spotlight episodes, or you want to listen to unreleased episodes, or simply just want to support the show, consider becoming a Shortbox patron. Visit patreon.com/theshortbox to check out the different support tiers available. We just actually uploaded our Far From Home review episode exclusively for Patreon, so it's a perfect time to join and enjoy bonus episodes.
And to vote on future artist spotlights like this one.
Yes. I'm already thinking about some of the next spotlight folks too. This episode we had Todd Mcfarlane going up against George Perez and Jim Lee, and Todd Mcfarlane won by 1 vote.
Whoa!
It could have been easily could have been a George Perez episode. So I'm thinking maybe seeing if George Perez wins in this second match. I know that we were talking about doing a definitely doing a dedicated Frank Miller episode. I think one would definitely because even doing this Todd McFarlane research, I was like, damn, this might as well be a 2-parter. This man has done a lot, but I think we can knock it out in 1 episode. I do want to take a quick step back and welcome our new listeners. My name is Bader Milligan. I'm your host. I'm joined by a full cast. I think this might be our first time doing a full cast artist spotlight. It's always been like, Ashley, you weren't there for the Mike Mignola. I don't think you were there for the Bernie Wrightson, 2 of your all-time favorites.
I know.
But it's good to see all of you guys. So I've got my right-hand man, Cesar Cordero, with me.
Sprinkle me.
All right. Yeah, I like that. Ashley Lanny Hoy is with us.
Hey.
And, of course, Edmund Danzard.
Yo.
So go ahead and get this thing started. So if you're unfamiliar with the Artist Spotlight, we normally start off with a quick trip down the artist, so in this case, Todd McFarlane. Just a quick look at their careers, man, because we did the homework for you guys so you can sit back and enjoy this episode. This is the 10,000-foot view of his career, specifically major milestones in his life and career that will help give some context to some of the work and different pieces that we'll be highlighting throughout this episode. So, and Ed, like I said, man, if you want to, if anyone wants to chime in, if anything I might miss, feel free to. Todd McFarlane has done a lot of stuff, especially with the different businesses he's got in place. So to kick us off, man, Todd McFarlane was born in 1961 in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. His dad worked in the printing business, which led him living in over 30 places across Canada and the U.S. He got interested in comic books at a very early age, and he started absorbing as much of the art form from masters at the time, such as John Byrne, Jack Kirby, George Perez, and Walt Simonson.
So I would say quick little interlude here is that Todd McFarlane, every time he talks about this sort of formative years, he's like, every day I would, I just spend a week drawing hands.
Yeah.
Spend a week drawing hands, and then I'd, spend a week drawing forearms, and then, eyes, and then pretty much you just put them all together in different pieces, and you can do an entire person. I'm like, God, I wish Rob Liefeld would have done that.
Rob Liefeld just skipped ankle and foot weeks.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He skipped leg day.
Yo,
Rob Liefeld skipped leg day.
He skipped ankle day. It's funny because you can even, since they're contemporaries, you can kind of compare those two styles because there's a lot of similarities as well. But
they were both trying to be John Byrne.
Yeah, but McFarlane was definitely more refined. As Liefeld took a lot more shortcuts. Even though Todd talking about he's always downplays his skill, in pretty much consistently across the board every interview. And one of the funniest things I heard was he's like, I like the really good guys, but the guys that inspired me were the guys that weren't that good. It was because if these guys can draw comics, I can draw as bad as these guys. So it's it's very funny. He like I said, what's really, I guess, refreshing is along with that kind of just intense drive that he has, but he really downplays his ability as an artist even to this day. So it's just really cool.
One thing I noticed in that Blueprint interview, which I'll champion later, but is that he constantly, a few times, even talking about his art and business side, he was like, anyone could have done this. It's just no one was doing this. And I just said, well, I'd like to see that. So I've read somewhere that, going back to kind of his life story, I read somewhere that he created Spawn at 16. He's got drawings at a young age of a form of Spawn, whether it's exactly what came out in the end or not. But
I don't know about the story. The character was designed, sure. And it was more Star Wars based.
Yeah, he says more sci-fi based than the kind of supernatural religious stuff came in
Right.
there. Yeah.
So just kind of fast forward, he met his future wife Wanda while in high school, which is interesting because speaking about Spawn, Al Simmons, and his wife ends up being named Wanda, and I think Todd even goes in an interview saying that
Dude, he names Wanda.
If you knew him, it'd be a botter.
Yeah.
If Milligan and Spawn.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd get that. I'd probably be one of them, like the demi-goblins or some shit. Like, random hobo number 2 botter. I'll take it.
Oh, no, they killed Botter. Damn it. Overkill or overkill, whatever your name is.
So after high school, he had a few options as far as, like, college options based on his baseball skills. He eventually got a baseball scholarship at Eastern Washington University. He worked a part-time campus job as well as a part-time job at a comic shop called Comic Rack. And he would just practice drawing comic books at night.
So I think it's also important to mention that Todd McFarlane is an athlete as well.
Serious.
So he has the discipline that an athlete would have. So it makes sense that it's funny that he trains artistically the way athletes train. And that kind of discipline also would remind me of the way Frank Frazetta was. Like Frank Frazetta was also an athlete and also the baseball player. Like the Flegel Street Gang, which was like him, Al Williamson. God, who was the other guy? There's one other person. But they were basically like all just a bunch of like heavy hitting artists from back in the day. And out of all of them, Frank was the athletic one. Like he was the one that could like kick a heavy bag off its off its chain hinges like nothing. Like that's how you throw a punch, kid, or that's how you But Todd McFarlane kind of reminds me of like that kind of guy where he's just like
he's like a throwback to
right,
the
exactly,
older generation,
exactly,
guys that were soldiers and blue collar, super blue collar dudes.
Sure.
So speaking about. So he ends up landing a baseball scholarship at Eastern Washington University. He worked a couple part-time jobs. He actually damn near suffered a near career-ending ankle injury while playing.
Well, it was a baseball career-ending injury, but not a comic book-ending injury.
No. Which kind of inspired him to focus more on drawing and working part-time jobs to pay for his education. He actually had the opportunity to try out for the Toronto Blue Jays. It's just that he ranked last, I guess, on the
he
the
didn't
roster.
rank last. He said he ranked. It was to get into their minor league system.
Okay.
So he ranked 26th out of a 25-man roster. So it's like, you got to go.
Yeah.
So and then another like just interesting thing I saw with a baseball tie-in when he was a kid, because he was always saying he was the kid in the class he drew. That's when he grew up. So he won this little like art contest, and when he was living in California, and they actually put his picture in, I think, Anaheim Stadium, or like they had like a little display of like the students' artwork.
Yeah.
So there's like that baseball connection.
That's
as
cool.
a kid,
That's
and that's
cool.
like his first time going to a major league stadium.
It's like both of those worlds intersecting.
Yeah.
You have it's ironic because he didn't know.
Yeah, and then it's funny just seeing like this kind of strange documentary with him and his brothers, which I didn't know. I didn't know anything about his other immediate family, and they were very competitive. Their dad basically made them play baseball over the summer because he was tired of dealing with them. So you're playing baseball, get out of the house. And he's like saying his brother, they were so competitive. His brother was, he threatened to kill him with a different object almost every day. Damn. And he said that kind of.
This is a Canadian household?
Yeah, he said that led to his like fearlessness when it comes to business. Like I had nothing to be afraid of. This guy was threatening to kill me with a bat. With a.
But he's very polite about it.
I was going to say, I think Canadian. I think Canadian.
Oh yeah, they were laughing about it. It was the two brothers and him sitting talking about it.
I think Canadian threats are a little more different than American threats. But
throw this maple bottle at your head, eh? You better watch out.
Look, I ran into Kyle maybe about 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Yo, I'm excited for that Todd McFarlane spotlight, man." And I was like, "Oh, you're a big Todd McFarlane fan?" He was like, "Yeah, but mainly just to hear Cesar do Todd McFarlane."
That was a great voice.
2 hours. So he actually graduated from college with a bachelor's in graphic design or something along those lines, which will come in handy later on. But while he was in college and wrapping up, he was sending close to 700 submissions over a year and a half.
Fun fact, he was the only person to graduate with a degree in graphic design to get a job doing graphic design. So, fun fact.
I cannot hear that. That is true.
Fun fact.
Yo, I give you points for that.
Fun fact.
Well, technically he didn't because he went into comics.
So then, okay.
So no, the record is still zero.
No, I think you count him as a success. I'm
Zero.
sorry.
No, it's just I'm not saying success, but it's technically not a graphic design job.
True.
Right, fair
So
enough.
the record is still zero.
Zero.
Ashley's body language just completely changed.
But,
It like totally hurts my heart.
me too. I'm in the same
Yeah.
boat. We're in the same boat. We're rowing the same boat, sister. It's a river of despair.
So he's sending all of these submissions. He's getting rejected left and right.
Dude, wait, think about that though. Like, emphasize that 30 to 40 submissions, and we're not talking like
700 over a year and a half.
yeah.
crazy.
Marvel requires you at least at that point in time like 4 pages.
And this is pre-internet. It's not like you're just sending JPEGs to
Right.
editors.
He
This
said
is
he had a
packages.
he said he had like a running list of the packages he would send out, and he would get it. He'd update the status. I was like, damn, this is before Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, right. And,
Damn, son.
And I was listening to an interview about that, and he said some people wouldn't give him, just ignore him. They just threw it in the trash. But
Yeah.
then he would use that feedback that he did get, like because he was just like most artists, we just kind of like drawing the splash pages, the pinups, and they're saying, well,
Yeah.
do page to page work because that's what you're going to get hired for.
Good
and then
point.
here's a sample script.
He actually, I guess some key advice he got to that effect was from DC Comics editor Sal Amendola, which was, hey, focus on the page-to-page storytelling, which then encouraged him to send a 5-page sample to Marvel Comics editor Ann Nocenti, who forwards that to Archie Goodwin and Joe Duffy, who are the editors of Marvel's Epic Comics imprint at the time.
Oh, that's interesting. Considering Ann Nocenti was like in charge of really writing, really pushing the envelope with some of the stories that they produced.
And one of the comics that the Epic Comics imprint was publishing at the time was called Coyote. And it was about a shape-shifting hero known as the Coyote. He had a bone to pick with a large criminal organization. But the creator of that comic book, Steve Englehart, actually called McFarlane and gave him his first comic job in a 1984 backup story in Coyote number 11.
And another funny thing about that is he's saying when he got that, he got like 25 copies just for, the job.
Oh, that's cool.
And he said he was just going to the neighbors. It's like, oh, hey, hi, I'm Todd. I drew this comic. And he just gave them all away to his neighbors.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
So following that backup story, his first major body of work being a 2-year run, 1985 to 1987 on DC's Infinity Inc. I think he did interior and covers. And his artwork, like, between what we know now and then, like, definitely he's following house style.
Yeah.
I think I'd seen some interviews where he was saying, like,
He's following house
Yeah.
style, but he was...
slowly putting in.
Yeah, he was using his, design background to make, like he was saying,
Yes, yeah.
smoke and mirrors to, like, what he called his, mediocre artwork. It's like, well, the artwork's not great, but the layout's going to be cool, and the design, the panels are going to be different. It's going to be visually interesting to kind of hide the... Because I'm still learning. One of the funny things is, like, I figured, I can learn on the job, and I'll just get better because I'll be drawing all the time.
Right, yeah.
And so you can kind of see him doing that, experimenting, which gets really crazy and Spawn, like his panels and stuff. So you can kind of see the birth of that there.
You can't do that as a tattoo artist, though. No, I'll just get better. Hit the book, man.
So from Coyote to DC's Infinity Inc., 1987 is when he would land illustrating those 3 issues of Detective Comics 4-issue Batman Year 2 run. So he did 3 of those 4, and I think Alan Davis did that 4th issue.
The Grim Reaper was the antagonist.
So from 1987 to 1988, he then moved back to Marvel. He started working on Incredible Hulk with Peter David.
I was going to say, I think it should also be
Rivals.
We got to mention that Batman is where he first started fucking around with capes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And the Grim Reaper being the bad guy is basically like, you could tell, like, you could like almost plot the Edgelord Metal Kid like progression of like marketing that he knew he was going to get. Like, he's like,
Dude, he had that sweet mullet back in the day.
oh, who didn't?
In the Canadian tuxedo.
Yo, I could not recognize him in them old like.
Oh, it's so
I was
crazy.
like, yo, I know this dude from the trailer parks. Like, so he moved.
He was a trailer park guy. They were living in a trailer park before.
I feel
he
like
got his
Canadian
mark.
trailer parks are really nice, though.
They're just nicer.
Yeah, just nice.
People.
Yeah.
Still shitty.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So from 1987, 1988, of course, we get his seminal work on Incredible Hulk. 1988, he joined David Michelini. Oh, now y'all don't want to help me out.
Sound it out one letter at a time.
Nigga, we want to see you fail.
On Amazing Spider-Man number 298.
What if it was like? What if we were wrong and Botter was right the whole time? Like it's like actually
It is Mocknick.
Yeah.
Mooknock.
Monick, I'm sorry.
Monick.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah, that was bad.
He's like, what if my? He's like, no, his name is actually Michael Line.
Michaeline.
So let's see. Amazing Spider-Man. He did that up until like I think 328. Yeah, 1990. After 28 issues of that Amazing Spider-Man run, he ends up telling the editor at the time, Jim Salicrup, he wanted to write his own stories and would be leaving Amazing Spider-Man after 328.
Yo, comic books are ethnic as fuck.
Yeah, they are. Well, I love 'em.
I love it.
He would get his wish granted with his own adjectiveless Spider-Man title
Adjectiveless.
in August 1990. That issue, Spider-Man number 1, sold for 2.5 million
With the
copies.
most parodied cover.
Yep.
Yep.
I just looked up, like, I didn't send it to you guys because it was
Oh, no,
way too many.
that's his own website.
But
That's
it's like
his own
30.
blog.
He even did it himself with Spawn.
Yes.
When you
Yes.
can parody your own
Like-
cover.
Oh, man, yeah. These recent issues of Spawn, as they're building up to 300, have all been to, like,
And I
callbacks.
just saw one with the Batman who laughs. That character. I saw one with him.
Yeah.
Eh.
Ashley, were you buying Spider-Man when Todd McFarlane was on? Do you got that
no,
issue?
I was getting Spawn. I wasn't getting Spider-Man.
Hell yeah.
Damn, gangsta.
Hell yeah.
You'd
Buying
have
Spawn
to-
at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That
Damn.
little thing that
The
turned.
spinner rack. The
Yeah,
spinner
spinner
rack.
rack.
Oh my
1991, issue 16 will be McFarlane's last job, pretty much at Marvel, but definitely on the Spider-Man title, as he leaves the title due to clashes and differences of
God.
management.
Oh, just to, sorry to
Yeah, no, go ahead.
backtrack with that number 1, and this is kind of that speculator market era. Mm-hmm. So that's granted, that's a lot, and that's no slight on that accomplishment. But that's when we started seeing like those hologram covers, those variant covers.
And that's a big reason why it sold
Yeah.
over 2 million.
That's
was
why the
because-
Jim Lee's X-Men sold
Yep.
like 8 million. There's like 10 covers
Yeah.
of that thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of that start of that you know, speculation.
And you know that Spider-Man run got him into, I think it was definitely a catalyst, besides the money
Oh, yeah.
that he wasn't getting, but his troubles with writing and drawing and doing his own thing on that Spider-Man, I think was a big catalyst in him.
That's his first
moving.
writing
Yeah.
gig. And that's a big, your first writing gig is Spider-Man. Have fun.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, I mean, I think he had asked for it. What ended
yeah.
up happening
He wanted
was
to do it.
the fans were and critics were were clowning him for his writing. His writing
Yeah.
was not there. It was too dark. It was too edgy. It was whatever.
Yeah.
The editors are mad that he was taking their flagship character and making him
Super
dark.
And it's like a kid's,
Yeah, exactly.
more of a kid-friendly character.
So that eventually led to his departure from the big two industry period in 1992 with the creation of Image Comics. He leaves alongside Eric Larson, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Will
Magnificent
Sportaccio,
Seven.
Oh, dude,
Mark
Will
Silvestri,
Sportaccio, man.
Yeah.
Jim Valentino. And honestly, that could be its own. There's some really stellar Image Comics documentaries out there. Like one on Amazon, and then there's a
sci-fi one?
YouTube one is pretty good.
I just watched it. They didn't talk to Eric Larson like at all. They talked to him for like 2
you're
seconds.
right.
He's too busy handling the money. There's too much money coming in.
I'm busy.
Damn, that's okay. Yeah.
I said busy, Ben. I said I was busy.
So 1992 saw the creation of Image Comics as well as the release of Spawn.
Dude,
number
diabetes
1.
medicine again? Is that going to be a running joke?
the Beatus.
The Beatus.
1992 saw the release of Spawn number 1 via McFarlane Studio, Todd McFarlane Productions. I don't have the figure on that one, how much that sold by
The actual action
Spawn?
figure or the
No, I'm
figure?
sorry.
Oh, no.
the,
1.7 million copies, no variants.
Damn, I feel like
Most-
most dropped the
dude, he
mic
was-
when he said
he
that.
was, Todd McFarlane was the number one.
yeah.
That's still
independent
the
comic book.
number one selling independent comic.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's his thing, dude.
The only thing that sold 1 million in recent history was when they did the Star Wars.
Yeah,
series.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
only
that's
thing
right.
that has broken 1 million.
Well,
since then.
I'm sure that you saw the thing too. One of the just talking about that move to or the creation of Image was, I think, what was the stat I saw? It was like 2 different stats, but it was like, I think the one I'm gonna go with is in 1990, 91, 90, 39 of the top 50 best-selling comic books were by like one of the 3, Todd McFarlane or
Of all the 7,
Jim Lee.
actually. Of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
7,
all
yeah.
of them owned it. So Man, I'm telling we could do.
Did you hear the
love to do
story where they went to DC too when they quit Marvel? They went to DC. It's like, we're not working for you either. I was like, what?
Yeah. I think they were saying like there's like 3 of us that weren't even
You
working.
came
for
in here
DC.
to tell us this?
Fuck you.
We didn't even do anything.
You. Dark Horse is over there. You're cool.
You know that Key and Peele video that you see a lot where it's like him playing the president, dapping everyone up, and there's the occasional life. I was like, that's how we make our own. So 1992, Image, the creation of Image, Spawn #1 comes out. McFarlane stays on as a regular artist up until Spawn #16. That's when Greg Capullo ends up taking over.
He stole that. He's freaking stole him from Marvel too.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong or I get egg on the face.
Bullshit.
I will definitely. Yesterday, I thought I could.
Fought me so hard.
No, for the
asshole.
record, I did not fight you hard.
You were like, all right, I'm taking this off the group text. Going straight to private messaging. Look, yo, are you sure that was Greg Capullo, motherfucker? Look, and I was like, y'all want to talk about this?
What's the name of the band again? Help me out. The
Iced Earth?
Iced Earth.
Well, Korn specifically was the one that struck
I
out for
thought I could tell Cesar what Todd McFarlane
The-
and Greg Capullo did
me. The
on
spirit of Joe Milligan possessed me.
on an album called Iced Earth: The Dark Saga. Or what? What was I doing? Like,
Yo, but did you listen
when
to
I
it?
finally no, I did not.
Did you
Like
listen
no,
to it?
I tried to play it and my iPhone was like, "You're not ready for this." Like, so I want to make a public.
too young.
I want to make a public apology for questioning Cesar's
No, it's what's funny
trivia
is,
on Korn and Iced Earth. What was I thinking? No, Cesar, Todd McFarlane did the cover.
no, you know what it was? Is that
It's hard as hell to find.
one? I think
It was annoying as shit to find.
we're all close to the same age except for you. You're a little bit younger, I think, and I think that being such like image junkies. When it came out, it hit all of us hard. So whenever like Greg Capullo and Todd McFarlane were doing something, also Spawn.com.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys want to mention that. Like that was a big thing. Like everything that Todd was doing, you could go to Spawn.com. Like if you had your AOL, get your free 10 hours from Best Buy, and you freaking put the CD in. Pray to God,
Old guy hour.
dude. Pray to God nobody picked up the phone on the other side while you were on Spawn.com to see the fucking It's like, dude. Here's the only reason I
Let's see
knew
if I can
that.
look for it.
32 pixel JPEG
Yes.
slowly loading
Yes.
on your screen.
Here's the only reason I knew that Botter was like, I was like, bro, don't test me on this because my Spawn.com would not load in time, and it would be like, bam,
yeah.
bam, bam, and I'm like, I've seen this picture 5 times. I've had to reload because my dad would be like, Cesar, are you on the internet? Get off! I gotta make a phone call, and I'm like, but Dad, Spawn, fuck you, Dad.
I'll say this though, man. I think it's one of those situations because Greg Capullo did it while employed by McFarlane. Productions. Todd gets like a bunch of just credit.
Todd was like Thomas
because I
Edison.
could
And
not.
he was still inking too,
Yeah.
so you still
Yeah.
have
Yes,
that
yeah,
look.
he
It's
gets
still
a
very
So
similar.
every resource I could find to find out who exactly did the art, because Capullo didn't sign his name on either that Korn album.
And
or
Todd
that
was like, you better not
Iced Earth.
fucking put your name on
So
that.
I mean, you can kind of see like I was
Who's in
like,
charge
no,
here?
I was genuinely like, yo, if he did it, why didn't he get the props? Of course, I ended up figuring out. Apologize to Cesar. I don't know shit about the Iced Earth, all right?
And
Shut
most
up,
like
man.
album art, you
Yo,
don't see
look-
like artist signatures.
No,
on
you
the
won't.
phone
Yeah,
or
you're
whatever,
right.
so.
Because they'll be like,
No, you're lame.
you'll be like, you're buying a CD for the fucking music. Don't be putting your signature on this shit.
Real quick, Ashley, you were playing it too cool on here, man. What was your Spawn experience?
No, I just remember. So
The
I didn't
darkness
have-
begins.
You have such
Yes.
a high
Wait, are we
happy
here?
voice without Spawn.
No, I'm thinking about the internet. I didn't have the internet for a long time.
Yeah, well,
I
like
used to be
yesterday,
like,
she just got it.
I used to be like, hey mom, like,
trying to
can
go
you
to Spawn.com.
drop me off at my friend's house so I could go on the internet.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I remember being so excited at the grocery store. I always wanted to go to the grocery store.
What made you? I mean, besides, like, were you planning to pick up Spawn.com or Spawn #1, or was it just like it caught your
No,
attention?
I just love that spinner rack, and that
Satan.
cover was
Satan was
My
amazing.
lord. My savior.
I don't think I ever read it. Honest to God, I don't think I ever read it. I just had them all and
Image
just
books were
looked
eye
at
candy.
them. Yeah.
They were
Damn.
total eye
I
candy.
would just spend hours looking through them and kind of put a story together. I can't remember ever reading any of those books.
Wait, did you get any backlash from your mom or parents or anyone, a guardian?
No, I think because I
She
was
should
quiet.
have. She should have.
yeah,
I
me
just
too.
had this thing in my hand and I stopped talking. So I think she
Oh,
was
and she was
just,
like,
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'll get it for you.
Yeah. Like I said, man,
Oh, dude. So are we at the
let's talk about Spawn. Let's talk
Okay.
about Spawn.
Well, the experience with Todd McFarlane, like, are we there yet, or you still want to
Wait,
keep
go through
going?
the thing.
Yeah, I said
Don't
let's talk Spawn. I mean, McFarlane.
Well, I was just going to say, so to go with what Ashley was saying, that with parents, I was reading Spawn, and I probably should not have been, because also Todd McFarlane kind of pushed the envelope as far as like what you can get away with in a comic book, because there was
very gory.
more cursing, more gore, and I'm sitting here reading it, and my dad be like, "What is that? What's a spawn? ¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es un spawn?" And I was like, "Oh, Dad, he's like a superhero," and he's like, I only told him, I
know
only
that
told him the honorable things. Like I was like, well, but wait, hold on, you ready for this? I was like,
this trick.
I was like, well, he's a black Marine who did special operations, and he wanted to see his wife again, so he got a chance to come back from the dead to avenge his wrongs.
It's
And
like Punisher with a cape.
yeah,
he's awesome.
Exactly. And then he's just like, oh, okay, huh, cool. And then I'm just like, yes, Satan. Metal. Blood in my comics.
What about you, Ed? Do you remember? Well, actually, let me go back to Cesar's story. How did you get the issue?
Oh, well, I had a pull.
Oh, word.
In Maryland, my mom was just like, let me just take my gay ass son to the fucking
God.
to the fucking comic book
Not in
store.
this
Let's see
court,
what happens. Let's see what happens.
So do you remember, because just going off the research and the clips I saw, it seemed to be like there was that energy in the air that something big was coming from Image. Like, do you remember that
Yeah,
vibe?
oh, dude. Going to the store in Maryland, they had advertisements like on the front of the counter. It took up the entire counter, and it just said "Spawn is coming," and then it had the counter. It was like 9:9:9:9:9.
So like the weird little meter.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like magic meter.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, "What the hell is that? And why does
Yeah.
that Spider-Man logo have green eyes? And he looks like he's evil.
What?
Like, what
Spider-Man.
is this?"
Damn. What
So
about
yeah, no, I was gonna say that was it. Yeah.
What about you, Ed? Remember your
I'm trying
first
to remember.
pickup of Spawn?
I remember the whole Image thing because I was. This is the time I started figuring out who artists were and like paying attention to that stuff rather than just looking at the pictures. So I think when that announcement was made, and then for me, just the way the Image comics looked because of because like digital coloring was starting to become a thing, because of the printing technology. So those Image books were all, digitally colored rather than the traditional old time coloring of the comics. So they really popped, like those when you look through any comics during that time and then look through an Image comic, how saturated, and they use that nice glossy paper.
I was gonna say they all
And
started
it was
printing
like-
on plastic as well.
Yeah, it was like really glossy, shiny, and like it's just it really, popped off the shelves. So I kind of knew this was going on. I kind of heard that all these like all-star artists, and I was drawing, so I was like an art guy more than a story guy. So I like the cool pictures, like you were saying, Ashley, where it's
Yeah.
like I probably didn't read Spawn either. I just looked at the pictures.
I fucking did. And that shit was good.
So yeah, once those guys, especially like Jim Lee, because I was a huge fan of Jim Lee, and I liked McFarlane's Spider-Man, and then as soon as those were the two guys that got me over to Image, I was like, okay, I'm on board.
When I was in middle school, like 7th or 8th grade, and I was like, there was this kid named, I think his name was Kevin or something, but he
It's
would.
like there's this kid named Cesar. He had a jean jacket. And he smelled like
A
BO.
mullet, jean jacket, a little weird mustache.
But he would bring comics and he would let me read them. And I remember he brought like Spawn, because I was bringing in like my dad's like books from his collection, and Kevin was like not into old comics. He was like, "Yo, these are kind of boring."
Yo, I'm not reading those pussy books. Oh, God, Kevin.
yeah. But I remember, like he would make comments about the books I was bringing. Like, there's not enough action in this. There's not enough fight scenes.
Kid stuff.
And he was like, "This is if you can bring books like this, these are the ones I'll trade you.
Kevin had a probably like his broken family.
Was
like,
he bringing
fucking
like pornography and stuff
mom's
too?
putting-
Well, I remember he brought Spawn, and I blew my fucking little mind. I was like,
Kevin was Judd Nelson's character from The Breakfast Club. Like he's looking at Potter like, thanks, Dad. Good job, son.
But I just, I was like, it was too much. Like as a kid, I was like, whoa, what is like you're reading these comics?
crying.
Like, I can't bring this home,
Dude, it broke Potter's brain.
You said I started crying. And the guidance counselor's like room trying to explain what I saw.
Dude, somewhere Todd McFarlane would be at his house and like his like a little boner would happen. Like every time a child cries reading Spawn, Todd McFarlane gets a little bit of a boner.
Another $2 in the bank.
Oh man.
Oh, just a couple more toys.
Look, straight up, we could honestly spend a long time talking about Image's rollout around that time, but I want to just kind of continue with the spotlight on McFarlane because around that time it was also Young Bloods #1 came out, Wildcats, and all those #1s were killing it.
Yeah.
So no, of course, Spawn.
The Max.
I think Spawn being.
But Max was like
Savage
that
Dragon
second
too.
wave of people that came in. Yeah, that was
To this day, right now, it's still Savage Dragon and Spawn being
Yep.
produced on a weekly basis. So I think that says something to it. So shortly after Image Comics is released, and maybe this might go to your point, Ashley, there was other folks that felt that Image was just strictly eye candy and not the good type of eye candy. There was criticism from critics as well as fans that, it's...
Peter David.
Yeah, Peter David, which I did not know this, but in 1993, he had a debate with Peter David at Philadelphia Comic Fest.
That's a tough
with
one.
George Perez as the moderator.
Oh.
What?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. And there was, I guess, a few judges, all from like different
It's a tough
facets.
fight to
Of course, Peter David, friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Peter David, smoked
Peter
him.
David, friend of the
Yeah, shout out to Pete, man. You thought you could step up to Pete in a battle of words?
Like Peter David's like,
Yo, nah, so-
you fancy yourself a writer, Todd?
Man.
Oh,
And then Todd's like, you win this round, and leaves in his Lamborghini. You win this round.
now, excuse me, I got to get my dick sucked. Come on, supermodel.
I thought that was a wild. I thought that was a pretty cool little tidbit that he.
They've had some
It was a-
weird rivalry.
That just goes to show that even when Todd loses, he never loses.
No.
Well, I got to give him props for wanting to step up and defend.
What was the
his
debate?
art.
What was the debate about?
I think it was just about the comic book scene at the time, the industry, the criticism of Image, their business
Being
practice,
more-
artistic integrity.
Just like very like not deep stuff. Just like very surface level material coming out. Just basically like we were saying, it was more art focused than story driven.
So Todd ended up losing that debate 2-1
Can't argue.
by
It's
judges.
hard to
vote,
argue
so,
that.
Yeah,
yeah, but I would love to see George Perez as the moderator. That would blow my mind.
this poor Puerto Rican guy in the middle
Hawaiian shirt.
with a Hawaiian shirt talking about FinishCon.
Oh yeah.
The inception of Fetish Con
He's just
too.
like, guys, let's throw a call down. All right, let's calm down.
Mike Tyson was there.
Sounds like Mike Tyson.
You know, the fans is holding me in the ear all the time.
So after 1993, a key thing in 1994 was when McFarlane DC Comics collaborated for the DC Comics release version of this mashup, Batman and Spawn War Devil, written by Doug Minch, Chuck Dixon, and Alan Grant. Hey. I learned. I'm easy, Drawn by Klaus Janson. That was published by DC Comics, and then Image Comics would release Spawn/Batman, written by Frank Miller, drawn by McFarlane. I was reading that last night.
Dude, how much of it?
And
So it's just kind of like,
art is okay.
dude, the art is not bad.
No, but it was.
But you're
it's
like-
not peak. McFarlane. You could definitely tell his mind was on other stuff.
Well,
he's-
Spawn. Like, I mean, he's running a company too.
Empires.
No,
Like,
I don't blame him.
It's weird because that is like an opportunity for Todd to work with a dude that he's name dropped as like yo, Frank Miller, man. Like, oh my god. And it's like I'm wondering like what does an edgelord from Maryland like Miller and a Canadian have? What do they really have in common? Like Frank Miller's like, I like to draw ninjas. And Todd McFarlane's like, hey, did you see the game last night? And they're both like, I guess we could do a story together. Like, no, what?
Look, the DC Batman Spawn sounds pretty epic. Has anyone read that one? Because I really want to give that one a shot.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
Or something.
No, the other one.
It's the other one.
Okay.
So that's the
This
Image
is
Comics
garbage.
release. That's what we do the spotlight.
This is the art's great. The art's fine. The art's great. It's the writing that's
The
kind of-
spotlight's
Well, they tribute the Dark Knight Returns in that cover, with the lightning
Yeah.
in the background. It's Spawn and Batman. So that's kind of a neat little...
Yeah.
It's touching.
It goes downhill from
It's touching. Yeah.
So 1994, that same year as these crossovers, he also launched Todd Toys, which we later changed to McFarlane Toys due to a cease and desist order from
one of
Mattel Toys.
many lawsuits.
Yes, on the basis that Mattel had a male doll in their Barbie line called Todd.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so he then changed it to McFarlane Toys. In the short between 1994 and 1999, that company sold over 6 million action figures.
And that's
a game changer.
Did you see the story at the Toy Fair, New York Toy Fair? Okay, so I'll just try to summarize it. But he's basically went to the big companies, because he wanted to do more detailed. He's just, Todd is, I want it to look cooler. Why can't it look cooler? That's like his, mantra.
That's his, seriously.
Why can't this
It's
look
like
cooler?
almost too simple, like how he approaches these things.
And he went to them,
he's a
and
fan.
then because that's one of the things in like a lot of interviews is like he tries to see himself as the kid looking at this. It's like what looks cool. And he's an artist. He's a visual guy, so
Yep.
designer. So what looks cool? That's kind of the more important thing. And but he said he went to Hasbro, Mattel, like these big companies, and he wanted to do these more better
Detailed,
molds, more detailed, more things that look like the prototype. The figures look like the prototypes, but they wouldn't do it because of the cost. It's like, oh, no one's going to pay $3. It was funny because the pricing then was like
$1 more.
$6.99.
Yeah.
It's like, when was the last time you saw a figure for $6.99? It's like it's $25 now. But he's saying, it's like, who's going to pay $1 extra? It's like, well, we give them $1 extra's worth of more value.
Right.
So he went to the toy fair, had like a little table. He called it like a swap meet, so it's kind of like a convention if you're not one of the big companies. And then at the time, Toys R Us was still the biggest buyer, and he didn't even have a prototype. He was saying this is where kind of dumb luck comes into the equation. But he had basically just a drawing, like just a mock-up of a package with the drawing of the figure kind of just inside, like a little card cutout. And then he's saying like the whole row of people, and there's like this guy came in, everyone's freaking out, and he's like, who's that guy? He's like, that's the Toys R Us buyer. And then he's just walking by tables, and everybody was sinking their head because he didn't stop and look. And then he comes up to my table, he looks at my stuff, and then he doesn't know what Spawn is, but he has like a 20-year-old assistant who's a fan who says, hey, this is the guy I was talking about. He's like, he's selling more books, at the time he's selling more than Batman and Superman and blah, blah, blah. And the guy was like, okay.
Cigar chomping.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Mr. Big.
It's like, and this is before he has anything set up. It's like, can you have this by, April or May? If I put this order in, it's like, yeah. And then that's one of the things in the video. It's like, always say yes.
Yeah. Figure it out later.
Yeah. So he's saying that there's dumb luck involved in his success, but that dumb luck was caused by the body of work he already did. So he already had this reputation of selling millions of comics with Marvel, millions of comics on his own. And then so he gets somebody in, and his assistant happens to have, he's like, if that assistant wasn't there, who knows what would happen.
Right.
It'd probably take longer, probably be a longer process. But that was just such a funny story to not have a prototype, but get Toys R Us to buy nationwide.
Awesome.
So that's how he got started.
And
Did any of you guys have any of those Todd McFarlane figures
yeah.
for anything?
I had a few.
I got so many Metal Gear Solid ones.
No. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that he started this company as a vehicle to sell Spawn toys the way he would want a Spawn
and
toy
to
done.
kind of combat the comic crash of the 90s, because he saw this implosion once people realized comics are not stocks and bonds and you can't retire off of them. So so he said, well, I need to diversify your bonds.
Yo, that's like the gist of this episode.
Dirty.
Diversify your damn bond.
He went to Wu-Tang Financial.
But it's crazy to see that, like, what started out as a company just to sell Spawn toys, to see the all of the different IPs that
Yeah.
he ended up like getting, like
Dude, Halo. Eventually.
Halo, all
X-Files,
the horror movie stuff. He
Kiss
did.
figures,
Oh, I got those.
Yeah.
Dude, on my desk when I record, I have all of the
that's right.
Kiss figures.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I went on Spawn.com.
Movie
It
Maniacs.
took me to
Yeah.
if you go on Spawn.com right now, it'll take you to Todd Mcfarlane Toys.com.
Spawn.com.
But he's doing like One Punch Man toys now. So it's
Yeah.
crazy to see all the IPs.
And he's doing all the sports
Yeah.
figures, which no one's done.
Yeah. Ashley, did you have a couple of McFarlane toys?
No, you know what's funny? I didn't start getting action figures and statues until like 6 or 7 years ago.
She's like, nah, I wasn't a bitch.
They didn't have them in the spinner rack. So
She's like, they didn't make a Satan one.
so nice.
Actually,
They did. It's that big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did Malbolgia and they
Scary as
did
hell.
Darkness from Legend.
Those were the toys in the back of Universe that I was just like never messing around with. James would be like, "Hey, you mind dusting the toys in the back?"
Stop.
No,
Stop.
no.
Pentagram on the ground.
Potter is still Peter Parker. It's great.
So 1994, we get the launch of McFarlane Toys. 1996, he's not satisfied with having two companies. He launches Todd McFarlane Entertainment, a film and animation studio responsible for the 1997 Spawn film,
there we go.
as well as
There
the
we go.
HBO animated
Which is incredible.
Spawn
Fuck yeah, I got the
series.
10 DVD collector's edition of that shit.
And you know, he won so the animated series was from 1997 to 1999. He won a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Achievement
It's
in Animation.
fantastic. It is
That
really
was
good.
definitely a series. Even my dad was like, "You guys are not watching this.
No.
I don't care how cool you think
boobs
Spawn is.
and cursing.
No, because I think he got in trouble with my mom.
It's so well done. It's
I still watch it,
So it
man.
still holds
Yeah.
up.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I just watched it
The
maybe
voice
last year.
acting, the actual audio mixing, it's freaking great.
Yeah, and we can kind of fast forward these last kind of years because between 1998 and 2006, he was really just producing a number of music videos and other animations. So I think
He won an Emmy. He won an Emmy for that, or a Grammy for the Corn video, right?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Because I got here Pearl Jam, Do the Evolution,
Pearl Jam.
Korn,
One of
Freak
those.
on a Leash, and then Land of Confusion by Disturbed.
Yep.
So 2006, fast forward to 2008, he returned to co-pilot the Spawn series with writer Brian Holgan with issue 185. 2009, he started that new ongoing series with Robert Kirkman called Haunt.
Yep.
He did he penciled some issues and he co-wrote a few of those issues right before the series finale.
Well, he's still president of Image Comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let's not forget that along the way, he's been giving people their careers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You just said Robert Kirkman. Everybody that's into The Walking Dead now.
Then they made
This
him
guy-
a partner because he originally was, just publishing through them. But,
Right.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't get any of that stuff if it
point.
wasn't
Good
for Todd McFarlane breaking away from Marvel and DC. Calling up, dude. I didn't know that all the Image guys were like, oh, by the way, even though they weren't working for DC, they're like, by the way, we're not working for you guys either. I was like, damn, guys, are overkill. You know, like you don't need to do that.
It's like we're gonna burn our bridges right off the bat.
They not only burn bridges, they fucking nuked the
But
bridges.
the funny thing is, like,
Oh,
Todd,
come on, say it.
But the
'cause
funny thing is, like,
wanna-
Todd was saying, is, you know what? Even if this, it just is his confidence. It's like, even if this doesn't work, they're just gonna hire. I mean, look how much we've done. They're gonna hire us back anyway.
Right, which they did.
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone has the answer to this. Joking about burning those bridges, not entirely, because Jim Lee is now an exec
DC.
high
Well,
up
No,
at
no,
DC.
sold.
but Jim Lee wasn't,
No.
and like Ed said, fuck them. They'll hire us ananyway
Yeah.
because we're that good.
Well, what I'm saying is
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane, and along with like Eric Larson and maybe a few of the other founders, is one of the few original Image founders that did not go back to Marvel or DC for
Well,
any
even
reason.
before that, they did that Heroes Reborn, Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld's
Yep.
horrible Captain
Yep.
America
Right.
series.
I do like that he stuck to his guns.
Well, that's not. It's not that he stuck to his guns. It's that he gave them a choice.
Yeah.
Like he's like, look, you don't have to follow their rules.
Yeah.
You don't have to work under those conditions.
I think
if
he's
you
done
want
some, like,
to,
covers.
Yeah,
Other than
exactly.
that, yeah.
He's all about like creator owned
On his own
content
terms.
and on your own terms. He's like, I don't care if you. Todd doesn't give a shit, dude. Jim Lee started Wildstorm and
Yeah.
then sold Wildstorm to DC.
Yeah.
and then
That's kind of why Image had to redo their business model,
right
because that
Sylvester
Wildstorm.
was Top Cow.
Yeah,
and
Rob left Extreme Studios.
Yeah.
Was that his?
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's funny. I think it was the Image. They were going to vote him out of the group, of the partnership, because it was. But then he quit. Rob quit, and then the lawyer's like, "Okay, he quit. You guys don't need to vote." It was. I think it was.
And they were like, "No, we're going to vote him anyway."
Yeah, they did. It's like, I was like, "Yeah, we just voted anyway."
They actually went to his
and
house
everybody
and was like, "We're not." Yeah.
I think it was Valentino. Was like, "Yeah, we just voted. We just still voted anyway." I was like, "I don't know why we couldn't vote still, but yeah, we still voted him out anyway, even though we quit."
Every time I think about Image, I think about the movie Goodfellas. And I imagine Rob
Yeah, that's pretty
Liefeld
good.
like to be like Ray Liotta's character. Like, as long as I can remember,
it's-
I always wanted to
it's-
draw comics.
As much fun as we make fun of Liefeld, as like him and Todd are kind of the two guys that pulled everybody.
Primarily,
They're the two
Liefeld.
kind of ringleaders because they
for
were the
sure.
rebels. They
Yeah,
were like
yeah.
the guys that were always fighting with the editors and the Comic Code Authority. So those two, and then Todd's kind of like the businessman, but Rob has like that kind of boyish charisma. If you watch some of his old interviews,
He's
and
approachable.
Yeah, he's very friendly, very approachable.
So Todd's
very
like-
charismatic.
Todd
he was
is
like
like-
on the late night shows, for God's sake.
I was going to say Todd
Levi's
is
commercials.
He's the fucking Levi's commercials. I forgot.
the button fly.
There you go, button fly. Yeah.
That's
he was the cool jock
hate
that was
button
like the
flies.
upperclassman that you couldn't really like be friends with,
Yeah.
but you knew he wouldn't like beat you
that
up.
sweet bowl cut.
But Rob Liefeld was kind of like the dude that was in your grade that also drew comics with you, but was friends.
He was
with
kind of like the jock
upperclassmen.
that would still be friendly to you.
Yeah.
right.
The jock that like comes, oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, that's funny because there's that. I know I've talked about it before. It was like there's a fake Rob Liefeld Twitter account.
Oh, yeah,
that shit's
That's
awesome.
in all capitals, and the only person he follows is Levi's.
Yes,
It's all capital letters.
you love it.
It's so funny.
The last two things I got as far as like just key milestones I wanted to highlight was in 2012 his gaming studio. So yet again another business venture, which was founded by Boston Red Sox pitcher Curt Schilling.
Of course.
When Todd ended up joining the company in 2006, but in 2012 they put out their only title, Kingdoms of Amalur: The Reckoning. It was a single-player RPG. It got a lot of good feedback.
Huh.
And then in 2017, Blumhouse Productions announced McFarlane would direct a Spawn reboot. And of course, of May of last year, we got the news that Jamie Foxx was announced for the role of Spawn. It was reported that the filming was supposed to start June of this year, but I think it might be delayed. So as far as like milestones, as you can tell, he's got a ton. Did we cover everything? No, but I think those were definitely some of the more important ones to cover. C, I think you wanted to go ahead and talk to us about our first experience with Todd McFarlane in general. We got to talk a little bit about Spawn, but I think the way the number of titles under his belt.
Well, I think this goes back to some of our conversations about Spider-Man and the jokes that we make inside about Eddie Brock showing up at your house, folding your aunt's clothes. Like
Oh my gosh.
Such a sweetheart.
so that was that was one of my first exposures to, I guess. Damn, no, it's not, because I read that issue after I read Spawn number 10, which was the Cerebus issue. Where like Dave Sim let Todd McFarlane use Cerebus. And dude, that was when I became okay. So you know how you're like, man, that shit broke your brain when you saw was it Kevin?
Yeah.
And his jean jacket and his failed parental relationship.
He was a West Side
He was
Kid.
smoking. Like that issue broke my brain as far as comic book creators were concerned, because as young as I was when I read it, it hit me. So I was, because like the whole issue is about there's a level of hell that they didn't touch on, right? And in the Spawn continuity, there's like, oh, we don't go in that level. And then issue number 10 was the issue where they talk to you like that level of hell is reserved for comic book creators and comic book creations.
Yeah. That's why it hasn't been reprinted.
Oh, it's
in the
fucking
collections.
it's so fucking awesome.
Really?
If you read it,
That
it's just
and the Angela one because of the Neil
Gaiman
lawsuits.
So like you read it and it's basically you just see like all these jail cells with like these hands kind of like
Yes.
dangling through.
You see
the
like a
hands,
Spider-Man hand?
right? But
Yeah.
the hands like a Spider-Man hand, a Batman hand. It's like, look,
Yeah, that's
here's
awesome.
all the freaking creations that their creators fucking sold.
Yeah.
They sold their children. Like there's like, how much money would these guys be making if it wasn't for the fact that they didn't have the foresight to realize that their characters would make money. And then like you see like all these dudes that like they've got bags over their heads like they're about to be executed, and they're like, those are the creators. And like Spawn's sitting here like, what the fuck does this have to do with me? I have no idea what's happening right now. And then like you see at the end, he gets a good ending. Like you see Spawn meets with Wanda and they have a different child. And the whole thing is that if Todd McFarlane wants to give Spawn that ending, he can. Because he created him and he can do it. Yeah, dude. It blew my mind when I read it.
I've seen the panels, but I never didn't know the ending. That's
dude, it is like
red.
I read it and instantly like my hair was like turning green. I wore a leather jacket and I was like, fuck you, comics. Like I was like instantly like, fucking where's my Iron Maiden t-shirt? And like I'm gonna make my own characters and I'm fucking never selling them to Marvel or DC ever.
Damn. I'm not following that up. Ashley, what was your first experience? Do you have a memorable, outside of Spawn, if it's any different, experience? Or
So I gotta say, I mean, I was super into Spawn at the grocery store when I was younger, and then I remember going to the comic shop and getting real into Image, and I kept seeing his name everywhere. And,
Wouldn't be the last time.
Yeah. And then working at the shop and going through the orders, and it's like, oh, this is a McFarlane action figure. Like, it's on everything. So he's kind of like, I love his art and everything that he is. Spawn's, like, not my thing anymore. But just the fact that he is such this huge part of Image, and he's just given so much to, like, the comic industry and, like, just creating that.
Well, you got to think about it now. It's like it's 25 plus years.
Yeah.
And you got to figure there's kids now that are growing up with Spider-Man and Spawn as, that's pretty crazy as an independent creation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a legacy character at this point.
I just remember something. I remember the Spawn video game. Wasn't it for Super Nintendo?
Yep.
Okay.
So good.
That was probably my first exposure to Spawn. That was it. Because that game was just creepy as hell. I just remember the graphics and the images were crazy as hell. But I don't think at the time I knew who Todd McFarlane was or who was behind it. Straight up, it was probably like in 2000, probably like 8 or 9 when I was going to Roy's Collectibles off San Juan and Blanding.
Oh, damn, Roy's.
Hey, help me out here, one of you guys. What was the name of the dude who worked there? He was a redhead dude, really nice guy. Knew his stuff big time.
I know what you're talking about.
I know. I can't. I think his name was Joe or David or something, but I don't want to misquote. But me and Drew would go in there all the time, and he had all of the McFarlane Metal Gear Solid toys. And I think it was around that time, Drew...
You see, he was a young guy?
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, homeboy was like
older
really
than me.
into... He was really into Brian Hitch.
Yeah. I know. I can't think of his name neither. I know we all know him, but
yeah.
I remember going in there a lot, and I was always looking at the McFarlane Metal Gear Solid toys. And Drew and him were always talking about like McFarlane key issues. So all of those Amazing Spider-Mans, all of his run on Incredible Hulk, because they were just going for a lot at the time. So if we weren't at Roy's looking through back issues for McFarlane, we'd go to Universal Superheroes, and I think that's around the time I met Sebastian. Because doesn't Sebastian love Todd McFarlane?
Todd McFarlane holds a special place in Seba's heart.
Yeah. Because Sebastian kind of introduced me to like how to go about finding comic books that
if you want to know about variants, Sebastian was that dude. Dude, this is like Goodfellas for real. Like it's like then there was Sebastian. He only fucked with variants. But anything that was a variant, he would go. Never wanted original covers.
I don't know what it was around that time, but I know Sebastian was like trying to get every McFarlane Spider-Man. So Drew somehow got into it too, and I just
dude, that must have been like around the time where I met you.
Yeah, it was not that far at all. Like I just remember him pulling out these covers, and I was like, oh, "Why does the Hulk look like that? What the hell is going on?"
He
with
looks kind of like he's got downs. What's happening?
mild downs, but downs.
Yeah. So I mean, I definitely got a big ups to Drew and Roy's Collectibles and Sebastian for like really driving home the point of how dope his artwork looked compared to the comic books I was reading at the time. Actually, I was curious your thoughts because, and Ed as well, both of you guys having gone to art school and whatnot, Did McFarlane's art resonate with you guys in any way? Like, is there any technical aspects to it that a normal comic book consumer probably doesn't credit enough?
So I did take some comic book classes at art college, but they were, super into like the real indie stuff. But I think
What are you doing with that Spawn comic? Please, here's your Love and
Pretty-
Rockets.
Love and-
I was about to say Love and Rockets.
yeah.
Here's your R. Crumb.
But the thing about him is I don't think like he started doing these dynamic poses, and I think it moved everybody else in that direction, because I love old comic covers, but everything's so stiff.
Yeah.
Like it looks like they just moved action figures
statues,
sometimes.
yeah.
And then he came around and he's got that, that Amazing Spider-Man cover where he's all like scrunched up and doing like the
No
crazy
skeleton.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's, it's his graphic design background, and it's amazing. I really think it pushed people to be like, oh yeah, well maybe we can make our character do this.
It's one of those things. It's like a time capsule for me. Like as a kid, I loved it, but I know like a lot of his influences. So I kind of go further back, because like he uses a lot of big chunks of black, like you would see like a Jack Kirby would do, and he would do these kind of crazy silhouettes with just like eyes, like old Warner Brothers cartoons, eyes and teeth, but no face. So he did a lot of little tricks like that. But on one end you have those like lack of detail shadows, but then you have all those intricate little like cross hatching he does. So you have like all this detail juxtaposed with these big blacks, which is really cool. And I think and he tributes Byrne and Kirby, but I think if you guys know Michael Golden's work,
Damn it. Okay.
he's that's I think a big because his characters were kind of slim, skinny, very elongated, flexible characters. So I think there's a lot of influence there as well.
I'm glad you said Michael Golden, because during my research, that name popped up a few times. And I don't know if Michael was really business savvy, but someone had compared McFarlane to him. And then I went into like a Michael Golden rabbit hole.
Michael Golden is different because he's super low key, almost like a Ditko. He went more into the commercial art field.
Okay, that's not
like
my
kind of like
thing.
Neil Adams. But one of the reasons he'd rather do that because it was like different things. Every project was different rather than doing the same team or character. And he's very low key, and he doesn't like he's just not a fan of like the artist as celebrity, as a rock star, whereas Todd embraces it so he can do the art.
Sure.
So I can make all this money
Keep
so I
making
can draw
the shit that he likes.
So it's but yeah, he's like I said, I still like it because he has that cartooniness with detail, and you see like all his influences, and it's at that time especially with Spider-Man, they were still kind of doing stuff with that 70s look. Spider-Man still looked this kind of, which is great, but in the 90s it was still like that Romita style.
Yeah, I was going to say, they were still writing Romita's dick for that.
Yeah, and then he wanted to make Mary Jane's supposed to be a model, and he's like, she looks like she dresses, she shops at Kmart. I'm going to draw her like a supermodel with big hair,
Fucking
big
sure.
lips. Yeah, and I'm going to draw Peter Parker like
I
a
should
young
not
man.
have been reading those comics.
Yeah,
Todd McFarlane messed me up.
Yeah.
Like, I went from reading Romita Mary Jane to
Yeah.
McFarlane Mary Jane. You can't do that when you're
and
going through
looking
puberty.
back now,
That's unrealistic.
As kid, it's different, but back now, I still like the Mary Jane look more than the McFarlane.
Yeah,
approach, 'cause
well, we're older,
There's a
and
dated his style.
There's a
As cool as it is, there's like it's not as timeless a style as like a Romita. Or
but it goes right back to Todd McFarlane's mantra, which is what looks cool.
what looks cool,
Like,
and
What's the target audience, and what looks cool for that target
when he
audience?
started building his empire, and he did this analogy where the best juggler in the world can juggle X amount of things at once. Put one more thing, like if you can juggle five things at once, but if you put that sixth thing in, everything falls apart. So he kind of knew when to back off of drawing and focus on the toys, the movies, the other things to kind of build everything up so he can go back and draw.
Dude, so much so that he had Greg Capullo do art.
Yeah.
Like pull art duties, and then Todd was just like, I'm just going to write.
Yeah.
And Greg Capullo is no slouch. No. And it took a while. Like, you read those early Spawn issues where he first gets to the book, you could see, like, he's still trying to draw, like, house style for Marvel. And then, like, maybe 1 or 2 books after that, you start seeing the Capullo. Like, dude, it didn't take long. 1 or 2 books, you start seeing the Capullo that we know and love today. Like, his style developed in those books. Like, I have all of the hardback Spawn collections, like, from 1 through 11, I think. I stopped about right around spoilers, where they kill Malbolgia. So it's crazy, man. Like, Todd McFarlane, like, he can't lose. He really can't.
And it's funny because it's like he'll, as much as he like downplays his ability as an artist even now, but there was one thing I don't know if it was the Complex interview or not. They were asking him about like the artist. He's like, oh yeah, I'm still one of the best artists here. So there's still that kind of cockiness.
Well,
you know?
it's not. I mean, he's
but he's earned it. It's well earned.
Yeah, it's not like he's being really cocky. Like, he's like, yo, dude, I work for a living. I didn't just fucking was born with this. Like, I feel like Todd McFarlane's talent is, you know how they say that, oh, with 10,000 hours you become an expert at something. I feel like he got there.
Oh, he put in way more than that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he got there. I don't know if he had natural artistic talent. You know, maybe he did, but it could have been anything for him to just rest on those laurels.
Yeah, but
instead of
everything
trying
that's
to
like
improve
we've like, at least from what information that's available, it's like he never went to like an art school. He's an athlete.
He's self-taught.
So everything was self-taught, and all his references were comics.
Right.
So you know, he didn't take a ton of anatomy classes and stuff.
He didn't go through the Neil Adams School of Art,
Yeah.
which is funny because Neil Adams was also one of those kind of like rebels that kind of fought for artists' rights.
Oh, yeah.
But the only difference is that Neil Adams never had a flagship character that he created. He still worked within the system, and I feel like Todd would just been like, bitch.
You know, I wanna highlight his Spider-Man run because I think it goes to the point that Ed, you were making about him being like the next major shift of Spider-Man art after Ramita, because I was still. Like Spider-Man, my key Spider-Man, anything was like the Ramita era run.
Yes.
So whenever I got into McFarlane and reading all of his run, it was almost like I had to work through the initial like, whoa, this is like kind of grotesque. Like it was almost grotesque.
Yes, it is.
Like
it is.
Like exaggerated.
And the way he draws hands, it's like. Holy shit! There's that many lines in my like.
I'd have been like, "Yo, there's that many dots and divots and details and stuff." Like
good divots. That's a very good word because he be drawing some random shit. But and it might even be to the point of like the editors at the time because we were talking about the pushback he was getting from the editors. I mean, let's talk about what he was introducing to a character like Spider-Man. He was putting him in way more contortioned poses,
the bigger eyes,
the bigger eyes, the spaghetti webbing that he helped introduce. It was really cool, man. It was like I said at first, it was like, what the fuck? Like, why is he bending like this? Why are the panels all over the place? And then eventually it just clicked, man, and it was like, no, this is like some. I think cool is the best word I could think of. Yeah. But they described his artwork really well in one of these interviews, and I kind of latched onto it. But like a disruptive force, like whatever title he was hopping on, it was like he completely disrupted whatever the status quo before that was. And I want to highlight this Incredible Hulk cover, this number 345. Yeah. And I'm a sucker for any comic book cover that plays with like the text. Yeah. But it's a picture of Grey Hulk like kind of moving apart his cover title by hand. But like it's just looking at this cover, it's like not. I would say like this is not the Hulk that I grew up with. Yes,
he's a monster again.
Yes,
like he made Hulk look like Jeff Goldblum at the end of The Fly. It's terrifying.
And I was watching one of these little sketches, like 15, like quick 10-minute sketch that Todd McFarlane doing, and of course he was drawing.
He still does those. That's something else.
He was drawing. He was drawing Spawn, and he even goes on to say like, "Look, I'm not designed to do a quick 5-minute sketch." He said, "That's why at cons I get so backed up."
One of the quotes is like. That he said about doing sketches because he released that art book a few years ago, and he's like, "Well,
devil's in the details."
Like, if I have time to sketch, I have time to make something. So that's why he said he's not a big like sketcher.
God, that dude is all about economizing his time. Dude. He's a businessman.
The whole time that he was drawing this Spawn headpiece, like every opportunity he could find to make it quote unquote cooler, he would. He was like, I see a lot of people just kind of like round out this this edge right here. No,
it becomes
man,
a full drawing.
Like,
it's not a sketch.
Make this like make this sharp. Corners here.
Yeah.
Let's throw in like some red here. Let's make the cowl like kind of twisted and
do it right. Say his voice. Do it.
I can't do that.
You can do it. Come on.
You're gonna go ahead and really bring in the corners right here. You want the cape all
Not
flowy.
bad, dude. That's pretty good.
Not bad. That's not bad.
Obviously, I want Kyle to be proud of me too.
Hey, yo, back off. I want that Kyle love.
How do you like that, Kyle? I do voices too. You like me now?
But
Am I pretty now, Kyle?
and so I wanted to also look at some of these Spawn covers, and I think maybe my favorite one is this one right here, Spawn number 229.
Oh, it's like
and
a
it's
Hulk.
it's
Hulk
a
tribute.
homage to Jim Steranko's Hulk cover where he's lifting up the the cover text as well.
Dude,
but
there's some fucking crazy ass Spawn covers.
Yeah,
like the
man.
one where he fights the KKK.
Oh, boy.
Where like Spawn
kinda
is like
need that.
hanging from a noose. Like I was like, oh shit! Like you forget because Spawn's face looks like Hamburger that he's a black dude.
Yeah.
I know
And,
the-
like all that shit comes into play.
I know you guys probably. Do you guys remember this image right here?
Oh, of course.
Wizard number 1, where he's got Spider-Man dressed up in like
A wizard robe.
Yeah, and a wizard. It kind of always reminds me of Fantasia.
Yeah,
like
the
all
Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah, all the time. So this was definitely one of my favorite like all-time images.
Oh yeah.
Great.
It's something about like that. His spaghetti webbing has set, and I see it now where it seems more artists have incorporated or made that a staple for him. It's
Eric
become-
Larson, man.
Yeah, Eric Larson.
Like Eric Larson
Who
was
actually-
his
yeah,
follow-up
yeah,
guy,
yeah, he
and then
was.
like he was just like, "Hey, what are you doing at Marvel, kid?"
So and he got pushed back for that webbing. He got pushed back for the eyes. But he had one of the things is he had the eye and he had the confidence to know like when to push back
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not give in.
And he follows almost like very similar stories to successful people outside of comic books, where he just he knew when to like keep the fight going.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he could have easily just and I think he even made a comment like, at first I was just following the rules, and then I
Yeah.
was
'Cause
slowly
He's new. He's the new guy.
yeah. So
Actually, I got a question.
Uh-oh.
What kind of music were you listening to around the time you first started reading Spawn?
Oh my god!
I mean, what music she was recording? Come on.
Oh yeah.
So when was that middle school?
Probably.
Was
Yeah.
Corn?
Yeah.
I was super into Corn and Rob
Oh my God.
Zombie.
Okay.
How many Jinkos did you have?
Oh god, I wore the same pair every day. Oh,
nice.
Terrible.
Jinkos.
My first concert was Bush and Veruca Salt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, flashback.
Nice.
This
Okay.
is the old guy hour. See you later, Botter. Taking over.
The old folks hour.
The old
I like
folks
it.
hour.
Okay. Michelle Branch had not answered the picture yet.
Oh. She hasn't
Not
developed
yet.
those pop
Not
sensibilities.
yet. Not yet.
You know what else
Yeah.
I'll probably credit Todd McFarlane, and maybe when I have more time to think, I'll correct myself. But right now, I'll go ahead and throw it out there that he's probably created maybe the most iconic, the most handful of iconic images for comic books, and
Oh, yeah.
primarily like Marvel. I think Amazing Spider-Man 300. How many times has that been parodied?
That pose.
Incredible
Those
Hulk
poses.
340, the Wolverine cover, where which is a great fucking
reflections
cover.
That's
in
my
the
favorite
That is-
cover.
man,
that's
that's
the first
insane.
thing I've seen of his was that cover. It's the first.
I feel
time
like
I've seen
this,
him.
and speaking about Sebastian and that whole kind of collector mentality, I don't think you can call yourself a collector or even a fan of Todd McFarlane unless you have this issue. I feel like this is like just up the bar is
Yeah.
set right here. Do you have
Yep.
Incredible Hulk 340?
I had it.
All right,
Yes.
now
I don't
I'll
know if I
talk to
had
you.
it.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I remember Sebastian
know
like
if I still have
finding 3 of these, and I was like, "Do you need all 3?" He was like,
He's like, bro.
"Yeah." Looked at me like I was.
He looks at you like,
Yeah,
bro.
and I think
How dare you.
I think his response was like, "It's
Get out.
McFarlane, bro."
He's
And I was like,
bro, it's
all right.
McFarlane, bro.
But I mean, that Amazing Spider-Man
Is it Cholo?
300, Spawn number 1, that cover is iconic as can be. Like he's got it, man. As far as like an artist who is capable of making a statement
Yeah.
in one image,
And that time period, his style just like was the perfect style for that.
And let's not
perfect
for-
storm of.
Let's not forget this is all done analog too, like not
Yeah.
digitally. Like he's using comic book
Yeah.
art boards. He's inking everything,
Oh, yeah.
using whiteout, like using negative space the best he can. Like
that's
that
one
is
of the things too with
hard.
with Spawn is like when I first heard of the Ollie Optics company, which digital coloring was becoming before it became the industry standard. So that helped a lot. Those really cool glowing, his hands glowing and
Right,
stuff. Oh
right.
my god.
Ashley, do you got any like iconic images for Todd McFarlane that when you think Todd, you kind of go to?
I think of that Amazing Spider-Man cover that I've seen
Oh, the
a
three webs?
million times.
Yeah.
And it's also, like you can make fun of his graphic design degree because it didn't do much, but
Thank you.
I see that in all these images that you're
Zero.
scrolling through right now.
He knows
I
how to
see
lay
it
out.
in
Yep.
it because
Yeah.
one of the things that they taught me was, when you make a cover, there's certain places you want people's
You want
eyes
your eye
to
to
go.
follow in a circle.
But you
Yeah.
look at this, and everything is pointing. Your eye follows, and it goes to that bottom right-hand corner. And when you pick up a comic, where's your hand go when you
Yep.
turn that first page? Bottom
Yep.
right-hand corner. And I'm just looking at it, and he's using all these little
Yep.
tricks, and he just works so hard.
That's what he calls his smoke and mirrors.
And I know he's a little full of himself, but it's hard to be mad at him for it because he works so hard for
Yeah,
everything.
but he's not a dick, though.
No.
And he's not at all.
Yeah.
Because you know what I love about him is that he is willing to share all the keys to
Yeah.
success that he's had. Like, and
He
it-
really is.
like
That-
I was reading through like a forum, and there was a lot of folks that was like, "Look, he's one of the nicest dudes ever."
Yeah.
I think there was
Canada.
someone chimed in like he stayed behind like 3 extra hours after the end of a signing to finish signing, as well as look
Yeah.
through people's art. Like,
and his
damn,
family didn't know he was making $1 million.
Man, let's talk
Like-
about that.
Poor son, he's a nice
But
guy,
It's the thing when he said because he says anyone could have done what I've done, they just didn't. And when he won an award for his sports figures, I think it was the Complex interview. He's like, I'll tell you how I did. I'll tell you exactly. It's like, how do you get them to look so real?
Oh
It's
my
like,
God,
I'll tell you exactly how to do it. It's this thing called a camera. You take a picture. And then you do the sculpt until it looks like the picture.
Shit was wild. I mean, it's like
See, anybody can do that.
And
No
that
one wants
wasn't-
to take the time.
that wasn't like the first simple answer neither.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about like comic books. He was like, anyone could have drawn Spider-Man how I did, crazy, and even probably better, but no one was doing it. No one was asking like, what looks cool?
and then
What
when you're in
do
that
I want to
environment,
see?
you get given so many guidelines.
Stan Lee's like, nah, true believer.
And when you get
Spider-Man sucks.
and especially if you go in, you're part of a machine. You're like a cog in the machine. So
Yeah.
you have so many masters to answer to. And one of the things he had a beef with, because one of the reasons he left was, kind of when he started getting darker with his, solo run on Spider-Man when he was writing and illustrating. And they would say it's like you can't. It's like they would basically tell him to draw it, and it's like, well, we don't. He said he was never given a specific set of rules from the Comic Code Authority. It was just some mysterious thing. And he's like, I don't want to redraw this 3 times because you guys don't know what's going on. And there was the thing with the Juggernaut getting stabbed through the eye
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
sword.
yeah, yeah.
It was kind of one of the final straws. But he was saying it was just, I was drawing stuff, I would send it up, and then they would come back and tell me I couldn't do that. And it's like, what can I do? It's like, well, just do this. And then I don't want to draw this 18 times. I just want to draw it once. Give me a specific set of rules to go by.
Did you hear his rebuttal to like one of the editors who was like, look, you can't. I forgot what title it was. You can't be drawn this way. And his
He's
rebuttal,
like, draw my dick.
Oh, my God.
I quit.
it'd be a very veiny penis to draw, and McFarlane's
It would be like
More
divots
hatching.
and like dots and like cross hatching.
Why is there
and,
Kirby
like,
crackles on your penis, man?
One of the balls would be in shadow, just all black.
how do you think I'm famous? I got the power cosmic in my cock.
But he was telling the editor like, look, my job is to help you sell comics.
Yeah.
How many comic books have we sold? And at the time, it was like when he was selling like a million copies
Yeah.
of Spider-Man.
Damn, he said that shit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like, let me continue to do
It's
my
like I
job.
have a track record. Yeah.
Dude, he's like sitting here flipping a coin. He's got like a toothpick in his mouth. He's like, yeah, you motherfuckers ain't selling shit, are you?
Like interior wise, I will also give him credit that he does not waste any panel or page space. Period. Lars had sent me like some Morbius pictures from his Spider-Man run, and it was like, yo, where's the panel like line? Like, where does this panel end and that one begins? You know,
It's kind of crazy.
His version of Morbius still scares me.
yo, that shit was really fucking freaky, actually.
That freaking upturned nose and those sharp
Oh,
teeth.
man,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, God.
Yeah. So how about we wrap up with this and we'll go on break and we'll come back and we'll talk like interesting facts and kind of close it out. But what's your like go-to recommendation as far as like titles, books, etc. when it comes to Todd McFarlane? Ashley, what's your kind of go-to? If you got like a new comic book fan or someone who's never heard of Todd McFarlane, they want to jump in and get the full kind of gist. Where would you point them?
I honestly, the only thing that I would think of is Spawn #1 because it's so iconic. Like he created this character when he was 15, 16 years old and never, everybody created all kinds of stuff. And nobody ever did anything with it except for Todd McFarlane.
Ooh, well said. Well said. Cesar, what about you?
Spawn.
All right. Ed?
It has to be Spawn. Especially like there's one in particular that really struck a chord with me for whatever reason was that Billy Kincaid issue.
Number
6?
Is it 6 or 8?
I remember.
think it's 8.
That one was so messed up. Billy Kincaid
It
was
is.
and at the time, because I saw like a little interview, his wife was editing the comics up until then, and then once that issue's like, I can't do this anymore. It's like, well, I don't want this. This is the kind of stuff I don't. They had kind of like a.
So Spawn number 8 was the one with the Spider-Man 300 tribute cover
Yeah.
on it, and it's the one where Billy Kincaid is in hell.
Okay, yeah,
Is that the one you're talking about?
The
or
one
the one
before
where
he
he's got
kills
the popsicles all over him? Getting
yeah. That's
stabbed
the
with
last
it.
page.
Ah,
Yeah. So that's the one where his own wife just like stopped editing because his wife is like or at least was the COO of his company.
Huh.
So it's like she was actually editing the book, and it's like this is like they kind of. It's like he published it anyway. He says he fired me. I say I quit. So, but that one was one just because like this when he did like the finger with the thing with the fingers, he put the little kid's fingers
peg,
on the
because it was
pegboard.
So backstory is that Billy Kincaid is a child molester and
Ice cream man.
His I guess his front or his cover was that he was the local ice cream man and he would kidnap kids and that's how he would take them, right?
Yeah.
And the idea being that he kidnapped the wrong kid. He kidnapped Cyan, the daughter of his ex-wife, Spawn's ex-wife. So,
Which is the name of his real daughter.
right. So he goes to rescue her, and because he's a fucking child molester, Spawn murders the living fuck out of him, but with ice cream like popsicles.
Yeah,
like
just
stabs him,
like ice
hangs
cream
him to death-
scoops and popsicles,
hangs him to death
sticks.
naked.
Yeah.
Then stabs him with ice cream popsicles. He bleeds out, and then in the back with his own blood, he writes, "He made boys scream, he made girls scream, so I made him scream
Scream and scream and scream.
and scream." And
Yeah.
Ashley
God.
is grinning from ear to ear.
Oh, Billy Kincaid's my favorite.
Dude, so great.
I need to. I have not read Spawn like I need to. So
I got you.
I need. Thank you. So what I will recommend is I'll recommend his Spider-Man run starting with 298, and primarily because so that way you can kind of see like the shift in dynamics of like what he brought to Marvel, being like the anti-house style at the time. I think it's kind of cool to see, and I cannot remember the name of the artist before him, but it is such a vastly like just different vibe and attitude and approach to the character than whoever was on before.
Yeah.
And I'm talking just like cover wise.
Yeah.
What I love about McFarlane the most is I can just stare at his covers like all day. I found like the site that had like a cover gallery, and man, it's just like
They make great T-shirts, man. Like you
Yo,
want to wear
well
like a
said.
McFarlane cover T-shirt.
like for someone that like to think about comic books from that business aspect of like I need to move product. What's the best way I can get people's attention and like get them to pick up the book? He was a fucking master at it.
Yeah.
Like his covers, oh man. Like you had like to Ash's point, like you had to pick them up and you're like, I got to see what's going
And
on.
then
in
the funny
site.
thing you said when you said his Marvel style evolving was he was initially told not to do kind of that experimental paneling and stuff like he kind of hinted at in his DC run. And they're saying, oh, I think Jim Shooter was the editor at the time, and they were saying, oh yeah, Jim doesn't want you to do that stuff. So he actually went to him and said, I heard you don't want like, breaking, because like characters coming out of the panel and like all these things like craggly borders. It's like I never said anything about that. Just don't do them crappy, do them cool. And then they basically went over like he gave him examples of like when not to do it and what bad examples.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, because everyone was so afraid of, I guess, him because he was such a presence. It's like it's like, oh, Jim doesn't want you to do that. And it's like, well, let me talk to him.
That's cool. I appreciate that story. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick music break. Greg, a.k.a. KLA, was here in town last weekend, so he left me with a bunch of new songs. So we'll play a track by KLA. He tells me that by next episode, we'll have the new intro song, so be on the lookout.
Special thanks to Greg for being in a potential video that we will be releasing soon.
Our first short box commercial. So shout outs to Greg. I'm going to play a new song by him. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this Spotlight episode. We'll share some interesting things that we found out and any last comments about Todd. All right? Enjoy the music, and we'll be right back.
That's like when Metallica starts wearing their own T-shirts.
They actually show him bidding on the baseball over the phone.
Wow.
Yeah, that dude has spent some money on baseballs.
Because he said he did that so he could do the toy figures.
Yeah.
He's a nerd.
Yeah, it's just
He's a baseball nerd.
Because in that complex video is, you got to see it.
Yeah.
It's
It's like 40 minutes, but it's a really good interview. And the thing is, like, and his stories stay consistent in other interviews. You know, sometimes you'll like see like them change it up.
The only thing I've seen is like, there was one interview, like I think early 2000s, where he's still like, yeah, I'm an athlete, but I draw stuff too. I draw stuff to make money. So he was still kind of holding on to the
athlete
that dream.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that first part, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone draw like Peter Parker or Spider-Man get beat the hell up like Todd Mcfarlane does.
Masks always ripped
That dude
off.
used to draw him like he was on death's door.
Like he's Rocky at the end of the movie. Like fucking everything on his face is purple. He's bleeding.
And
Rocky doesn't block punches.
No, he
Go back
uses
and watch it.
it.
It's
Don't
just-
worry, I used my head.
He just got hit 50
like,
times.
like even his covers, and I'm just looking at the three I picked out: number 311, 313, and then 324. Like they've all got him like Spider-Man in positions of like fear and like just like you don't see that much. Like this Mysterio cover. The lizard cover
cool.
is insane.
Yeah.
The Sabretooth cover looks like his webbings are useless as hell, and he's about to get it. You know,
You get fucked up by Sabretooth, man. You can't have that happen. Todd, what are you doing?
Oh man! So look, I wanted to spend the rest of this time kind of just talking about give our listeners like a behind the scenes look as far as like the research process. Did you guys find any interesting articles, links, resources, any interesting facts that you guys weren't able to share in the first one? And then how did you guys go about kind of learning more about Todd Mcfarlane that you didn't already know?
Well, via our Todd Mcfarlane debate, whether about album covers, I had found out that he was not cool with the Iced Earth. The band Iced Earth basically making a concept album based off of Spawn. That the guitarist, I think John Schaefer is his name, was like, yo, I'm a huge Spawn fan, and I think we should do like a whole album based off of
Concept
Spawn,
album.
right?
Yeah.
Like a whole like it's a very prog rocky thing to do. But Iced Earth is they're like power metal, so. They're like, yeah, sounds great. Yeah, Spawn's fucking badass. And Todd was like, I don't know about that.
I don't know
about that. And I'm just like, it's funny because
What's my cut?
exactly in true Todd McFarlane fashion, he thought like, okay, they're trying to fucking screw me over.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, like we like him. Like, dude, we like Spawn. We like you. Like, we're just calling to get your blessing, man. And he's just like, oh, well, in that case, fucking badass. Metal.
50% off the top.
Let's do it. So yeah, so like I thought that was interesting.
He also, and I think maybe he actually did this cover because the other covers he did not sign his name, but he also did a cover for a Canadian hip hop group called Swollen Members.
Oh
And
my
the album was called Heavy. Did I listen to it yet? No. Well, I listened to
Look,
it. Probably not.
Bonner, I don't know if you know, but Canada's about as rough as Englewood.
Swollen
and
members.
Compton's doesn't got anything on Edmonton. All right.
What's your guys' names again? Swollen members?
City of Edmonton. Represent.
And I think,
Penis joke. I like it.
Ed, I think me and you both definitely mentioned a few times, but the Complex Blueprint series, which is a series of interviews they do with like entrepreneurs, really big kind of names in whatever field. Yeah. It's only one dude doing the interviews, but it's a very in-depth one. And I think this Todd McFarlane one by far has been the best one of that series. And he's interviewed some pretty big names. I know Sci-Fi had like a bunch of like interviews with him, and primarily probably because of that Image documentary they put out. So I highly recommend anyone interested in like that era and Image in particular. That was a fantastic one. Ed, did you mentioned like I think you always seem to find like some really good interview. I usually aim for more so the articles, but you mentioned a few really good interviews.
Yeah, give me someone cover for me. Let me look this up. But yeah, one of the documentaries was a 2001-ish documentary, and it really goes. You get to see him like in his. I don't know if he's still in Arizona, but his Arizona mansion. Mansion.
Oh, like that?
So it's got the double staircases when you come in.
That's already a good sign. That's a good. Yeah.
Jesus, yeah. So you get to see him, and like you get to see his mom and dad kind of interviews, his brothers, which is cool. You see his wife, which is a big part of his company, which I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know she was an editor. That's
crazy. She was an editor, and she was really giving it to a guy over. They filmed part of like a business meeting, and it's like she's like it was something about focusing on Spawn characters. Like, look, the line's beyond Spawn at this point. We're bigger than just doing the Spawn property. I want you to send me this list of it's like I asked for it. I don't know why it's not here now. I mean, it's like oh Jesus,
he's not from Canada.
So it's let me see. It's,
yeah, good. I'll say this because of how closely tied Spawn is to anything Todd McFarlane. I learned that currently Spawn right now is on the road to issue 300, and with 301 it will be the longest. I don't want to misquote it, but like the longest running creator-owned comic book series. 301, of course, would beat out Dave Sim's Cerebus, thank you. Because Dave stopped at 300. I think he had early on said, I'm doing 300 issues and jumping off that.
Yeah. And he wasn't doing backgrounds for a while, too. He was just drawing Cerebus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's The Devil You Know, the Inside the Mind of Todd McFarlane. And that has, like, it goes back and forth with his family, and there's, like, just a couple of, fans, like young guys that are fans that are collectors.
That's a National Film Board of Canada documentary. Like the National Film Board of Canada produced that.
Like they're like it's like a really classy logo comes in the beginning of the video, and it's like
they must have had some copyright issues because there's some really wonky music.
What was this art book you put out? Is it
that was
the same title?
Yeah, I think it's the same title, right?
Devil in the Details.
Devil in the Details. That was 2006.
I kind of got to check that out.
Yeah.
I learned that he used a pseudonym, Will Carlton, while writing Spawn from 201 to 219.
Yeah, it's like, see how they like this writer.
Yeah, in order to...
It's like Stephen King's Bachman books.
That's great.
Yeah, he wanted to inject like new interest in it.
Yeah, I figured I'd change my name so that way the kids wouldn't know it was
and
me.
I don't have to pay a writer.
Really? Well, what pseudonym are you writing under? Schmod McSmarlin?
all the Spawn news about reaching 300 and 301, it actually inspired me to put it on my pull. So I'm going to check out 300 and 301 and probably work my way back. I do know those collected editions, those hardcovers are fucking sexy.
They are. Yeah. Come to my house.
I love the fact that you've got like, I think every artist spotlight, you've had like all, like the Mignola one, of course, you've had like all the Hellboy.
And the 6-foot-tall Spawn statue.
Oh, what now?
Yo, some of those
is that for real? Oh, dude, I was gonna say if it does exist, I'm buying it.
I remember going into Roy's and
And it'll be detailed.
There would be some of the all of the best statues were all the Spawn ones. Like,
Oh, yeah.
God, McFarlane toys are insanely great. Just those Metal Gear Solid ones,
They're like statues. Like they're like
Yeah.
miniature. Like I can just be like, look, you could either buy a really detailed like Conan statue that fucking
Made of porcelain.
that Dark Horse is going
brick.
to let out, or you could just buy the Todd McFarlane Conan action figures that came out, and then
just
like
as good.
yes,
Have y'all ever seen some of his like the sports figures?
yes,
I swear, like they package it like one of the players. Like,
Oh, dude, there's and that
Yeah.
they bring it back to this documentary.
Fucking
but
Randy
he's-
Johnson's in there still. Like
he's arguing with this guy about like a pose for a figure because those are posed figures. They're basically
Yeah.
like just in one pose, real minimal articulation.
Right.
But he's talking to this guy about a pose for a player. I don't remember who. And he's like, and the guy was like, well, we need to do a pose that this guy is, recognized for. It's like, he's a hockey player. Every pose, every one of these people are going to make the pose that I want in a game. He's going to, like a slap,
Right.
He's going to make the pose. And it's like, well, it's like, do you even like hockey? Do you watch hockey? It's like, oh, not really. Okay. Tell you what, what's the pose you associate with Wayne Gretzky? Nothing? He's the most famous hockey. You can't even give me a fucking. He's like,
that's great.
he's like, oh my god,
That's
just
awesome.
Listen to. It's like what? Yeah. So it's funny because
He's about to deliver the speech at the end
Oh
of
my
Glenn
God.
Gary, Glenn
Yeah.
Ross to this guy.
you get to see him go off, and it's funny because his wife was like, it's like Todd being the boss. Sometimes it's he gets it's like. I have to tell him, it's like, the young you would hate this. And like one of his, he accepted an award for us, like, I didn't do this to become an entrepreneur, but I guess, this is what I got this thing for. And so you kind of, sometimes you just become the thing you hate eventually.
damn, that's some real shit.
So yeah, it's really cool. You see all those.
Now,
behind the
excuse
scenes
me as I
stuff.
drive away in my Lamborghini.
Oh yeah. Excuse me, helicopter.
Man, I recommend that Blueprint series, period, to anyone that is an artist, wants to do the thing they love while making, a living.
Yeah.
Because specifically that Todd McFarlane one, his attitude about all of this was, what did he kept saying? He was like, I'm bilingual. I can talk art and I can talk business.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can walk into a business meeting,
Yeah.
pitch them, let's say a Spawn, and I can get the funding I need to continue to do the thing I love, which is create art my way, and still get paid for it. Like, I just love that. The only issue is he made it seem too simple, and made a part of me is like, is it that simple?
He has the.
If you're Todd McFarlane,
If you have the history and you've had the pedigree,
Right,
it's
right.
that simple.
yeah, he's already
And
an
it's like-
established name.
And he's like, "What can they take away from me?" It's like,
yeah,
what, like
that was a good point.
like a license. Ooh, it's like, it's so awesome. It's
Yeah, that shit was
awesome.
gangsta,
You
yeah.
gotta.
He was
it's
gangsta
like
as fuck.
it's one part humble, just because
Nah,
he's
and
very
just keeping it
but
real,
he's just
baby.
like, oh my god, he's
Yeah.
so direct. It's
Yeah.
He's
Like, he's-
fascinating.
he is someone that I don't mind listening to them talk their shit because of what he's done for other people too.
Exactly.
I think he even said, and maybe this is true, so help me out here. Image probably has the best deal.
Yeah.
Not only in just comics, but entertainment.
Yeah,
Period.
Image doesn't
Like,
own
there
anything
is-
but the logo.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all we own.
Which is fucking beautiful.
Yeah. And they get a little. I know that's the business model. They get a percentage to kind of keep the infrastructure going. But anybody that creates, it's kind of like the Vertigo. It was like the Vertigo model. Before they closed it, it was like you could take it to X, Y, and Z, and other people can come and talk to you because you're not Warner Brothers, you're not Disney, you're not tied in with those guys. So
I liked how he broke down like one of the bigger reasons for them to make Image, to split and make Image. Of course, money problems not being a secret, but how he broke it down, like I was drawing Spider-Man. Every issue was going for whatever. It was selling 1 million copies. I was only making
4%.
4%. So whatever 4% of 1 million is. But with Image, he was like, my book could sell maybe a fraction of that.
Yeah.
Let's just say 100,000. Well, guess what? I own 100% of that. So even if I only sold 100,000,
Yeah.
I'm making the same and maybe even a little less. But guess what? I'm doing what I love. I was like, fuck.
It's true, but to be fair, it's like you also have to. You get 100%, but you get 100% of those bills too.
Yeah.
You don't have. You have to run it, but it's still
Better
benefits
than-
you.
yeah.
It's still better than just the flat 4%.
Something interesting. So Spider-Man number 328. So the cover where he's punching Hulk
that's a great
and
cover.
crushing, his logo and whatnot. One, he said that he is punching Hulk in the nutsack. He was like, if you look at, I think he said, if you look at the black and white
Todd.
pencils, he said there is no doubt about it.
drew a dick.
He said, and he was saying that like he does this a lot where he'll
Now,
sneak in.
if you look at the details in this cover, Spider-Man is actually punching Hulk right in the gooch.
But he was like, the way the editor saw it, it just looks like he's getting punched in the stomach, and it was enough for them to slide it. But he was like, no, I'm
Yeah.
letting you know, I drew him punching
power
Hulk
lines
in the
straight from
nuts. Yep.
Spidey's fist into the Hulk dick.
Well, the original art for that sold for $657,000. It was at least at the time of whatever article I found, it was the highest auction price ever for any piece of American comic book art. And Todd McFarlane apparently does not sell his original art like that. He says Robert Kirkman is always calling him up, hey, if you're ever going to sell your artwork, I'm the first one you sell it to, all right? And Todd was saying that, how do you break this down? He was like, there's only, whatever, for the sake of this conversation, 100 Todd McFarlane original art pieces circulating amongst the market.
Yeah.
He said there's never been new art pieces.
Bunch of phony ones,
Yeah, and just,
too. Yeah.
there's never been new art pieces like put into this circulation. He was like, guess who's got all of the original art? Me. So he said, when it's time for me to think about selling art, it was like, damn, man.
All the money.
It's going to
investment.
be so much.
And he doesn't
so
need the
much
money.
No.
Anytime soon. So
No, it's like, God damn, dude. I also learned that around 2006, Todd McFarlane had plans to do a follow-up to his Spawn Batman story with Greg Capullo as the artist. It just never went through.
I heard that a lady in Mexico saw Todd McFarlane's face in a tortilla chip. That's as I heard.
Hey, real quick, speaking about Greg Capullo, in some weird Google roundabout circle way, I ended up finding pictures of Greg Capullo's like home gym. Like it was on this like home bodybuilder blogspot.com, and Greg Capullo was like the spotlight dude.
Yeah.
And they were treating him as if like Greg Capullo draws comic books on his spare time when he's not working out.
Like they don't know what he does.
He's getting his pump on.
It was like really funny. Dude,
His bodybuilder, Greg
his home
Capullo.
gym is crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
Crazy fucking nice. McFarlane, speaking about some of the sports stuff, he was a former minority owner of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He designed the logo.
Yeah, he designed the logo.
The amount of baseballs this motherfucker has bought.
Yeah.
And to your point, he said he ended up having to buy those baseballs so he could do the sports
Get his
toys.
foot in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, what better way to get everyone's
He
respect?
said in that video, it's like, I spent $3 million and I made $30 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. He said 1998 he paid
Jesus.
$2.6 million at an auction for the baseball that Mark McGuire, his 70th home run, and he paid $175,000 for Sammy
in that
Sosa's.
documentary, you see he's on the phone at the auction house. He's on the phone with the bidding back and forth for that ball. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, and Ed, you had hinted at some of like, it hasn't always been all peaches and candy for his life. He's run into a lot of legal issues.
One of his tropes, I guess, it's he just names characters after people he knows. It's like, and we were just talking about this. I'm glad he didn't get divorced because his wife and kid have all half of his money.
What were some of the lawsuits?
Al Simmons was the last one, I think 2002-ish.
And the premise behind that was there was someone working for his company named Al Simmons.
Yeah, it was a friend of his. I think
okay.
they played baseball together.
Oh, okay.
So he's like an
Go
old
into detail.
friend, and then he wrote this biography.
Being Spawn or something. The art of being Spawn or
it's
something
like saying that he was the inspiration, even though it was just the name. It was like very. I'm not sure. The language is kind of confusing.
I'm actually Spawn.
Yeah,
Guys.
but like Wanda and Cyan, it's Terry Fitzgerald is his buddy.
Right.
He wrote a whole book about being like what?
Yeah, it was like his autobiography because he worked for Todd for a while.
Okay, I didn't know
they're
that part.
friends, but I didn't know his actual role in the company. But you would see like in Wizards and stuff them hanging out, and I'm not sure what his title was, but there was a hockey player Tony Twist, which is he named the mobster character
Right.
after, and he
What was it? The mobster's character's name was just Twist.
Tony Twist, but
Oh,
that
it
was his
full
real
name.
Yeah,
God damn.
Yes.
Todd,
It was-
Can you just change the last
Tony,
names, dude?
Tony Twistelli.
He was
Yes,
not letting
Twistelli.
that alliteration go.
but he went by Tony Twist for short in the book. So
Yep.
it's funny because like just the lawsuit is like, well, he's not that big of. I guess he was doing a bunch of charity work and stuff, and he didn't want his name associated with a fictional
Lobster.
villain. But
That's a $5 million like.
it was more than that before.
Oh,
They settled
word.
for $5, but it was for a lot more than that before. He had to appeal several times, so it cost him way more than $5 million.
You got to understand at this time, like, Todd McFarlane was blowing up.
Yeah.
So everybody knew who Tony Twist was because of the HBO show and all that stuff.
And
like,
Wizard printed an article that had the player. That's how I knew who. I didn't follow hockey,
Right.
so that's how I knew, because Wizard had an article just as a joke. Oh, Tony Twist, and so
Oh damn! Wizard cost that man
Yeah.
$5 million.
that Wizard. That was one of the things in court too, because Todd was like, "This guy is a nobody. Who's this guy?" and then it's like, "Well, there's this Wizard article where you say that you named it after."
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh boy.
I know there was a few other ones, but one of the quote unquote controversies I saw was Todd and David Michelin is often credited as the co-creators of Venom.
Yeah.
So Todd was saying that Venom kind of came about because he didn't want to draw Spider-Man in his black suit. He wanted to draw Spider-Man in his regular suit, but they wanted to use that suit or that symbiote in some way.
Yeah.
So Todd ends up drawing Venom as we know, the way he draws
monster
him,
Venom,
big
yeah.
kind of buff,
The teeth
green
and the
tongue,
yeah.
and all that stuff. But he didn't know that Eddie Brock was going to be the villain, the host or whatnot. So he was like, well, damn, I would have just drew him skinny. He said, I would have just drew him like a regular dude. I know that. I thought he was going to be I thought Venom was going to be a monster.
Yeah.
At first, so I thought that was pretty.
And there's the Neil Gaiman Miracle Man.
Yeah,
lawsuit
Miracle
was
Man is
very
still.
confusing.
Yeah, that is a very confusing.
Because he
property.
created Cagliostro,
Cagliostro.
Medieval Spawn, and Angela.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman. So that's why that issue hasn't been reprinted either. And apparently there was some negotiation regarding the rights to Miracle Man.
Yeah,
But he didn't have.
he didn't own the rights to Miracle Man.
He owned the rights to the logos.
Yes. Yeah, it was a little complicated.
So it's like, it was, I don't know who's, it's kind of he said, she said, type of thing.
Well, so it was.
Of all characters, too. Fucking Miracle Man.
Yeah.
What a loser.
Well, it really messed
It's a
everything
rip-off
up.
of Shazam.
It was. It really
It's an
messed.
adult Shazam.
Yeah, it really messed everything up when Marvel ended up just buying the property. Because then it was like,
Yeah.
well, Todd, what the hell do you own for Miracle Man? What's my? So I know they had to settle that out.
Todd
of court.
McFarlane's Miracle Man figure, though, is fucking badass looking.
Yeah.
Man of Miracles is what it's called.
Man of Miracles.
I mean, that's his version of God in their universe. Like, God is Miracle Man.
I will add to that Venom thing and say that is also one of those really convoluted who created him because of like the history with the symbiote and who created that, as well as like just that black suit period was Marvel had put out like a contest, which is Spider-Man's new suit be. I forgot the name of the dude that sent in like, hey, it'd be cool if Spider-Man wore a black suit and red like eyes and shit. And the editor at the time bought that idea from the fan for like $200, something super cheap. And that's how we got the black suit.
I thought the black suit came after Secret Wars.
It did.
The symbiote, or is this something different?
No,
No,
it
just
was-
the
it was
black
as
cloth
a
suit.
result
Black
of
cloth
the
suit,
Secret Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I got to
Yeah,
get
it's
my
very
facts right,
confusing.
but it's like
But he created the monster Venom.
yeah.
Is
There's like
essentially the visual.
Yeah. There's someone who there's the creation of the symbiote. There's that aspect of the black suit being a fan of submission.
He gets
and
at
then
least as
Eddie
much
Brock,
credit as for Venom creation as Rob
a
Liefeld
lot
for
dude,
Deadpool.
a lot. Yeah.
Because Rob's Deadpool looks like him, but the thing that got him popular was Fabian Descenza.
Yeah, the part that makes
Made him
what
likable.
Makes, what
not
makes Deadpool, Rob Liefeld had nothing
not
to
a
do
Deathstroke ripoff.
with. Nothing to do with it. Yeah.
So I mean, he at least should get that much the visual credit for Venom.
Yeah. So those are kind of some of the interesting facts. But I mean, I if anyone wants to dive more into Mike McFarlane, there's plenty
Yeah.
of
I mean,
stuff.
the man is shrouded
30+
in
years.
controversy regarding
Yeah.
that stuff, but this is artist spotlight.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
far as that's concerned,
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had. You guys got any last?
It's undeniable. I mean, you can't deny the empire that he built.
right.
Empire and just
And his
Impact, man.
art, man. His art
Yeah.
is still
But it's
holds
funny
up.
because it's like that almost gets overshadowed a lot just because of all the other ventures that he's done.
Right.
That almost becomes like secondary to
only because
entrepreneur.
only because he
artist.
stopped doing it.
Yeah.
You know, like imagine like if he just
That was
still
that
kept going.
extra ball that he couldn't juggle. You know?
I still see artists trying to draw Spider-Man like he does. I still see folks draw capes the way he does.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think
Greg Capullo has a career because of Todd McFarlane. You wouldn't get
for
any
sure.
of the Scott Snyder Capullo run. You guys like that shit? Wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Todd McFarlane. Would not happen.
Dark Knight Metal. You like that shit?
You like all that
Huh?
shit?
You like it?
You like Todd McFarlane.
and it was just and it just goes back to that mantra. I just wanted to make what's cool.
Shit that looks cool. So he created an Italian man named Greg Capullo.
He's like
drew him with muscles, and then he just said,
He's jump started a lot of careers. Like one of my favorite artists, Ashley Wood, started.
Oh, there you go.
The Hellspawn series.
That's cool.
Brian Michael Bendis, Steve Niles wrote for him.
Yep.
So he's
Damn.
he would say like in one of the I think it is in that complex, but he would say that Marvel and DC would he would give people a chance, and Marvel and DC would basically
Scoop them up, yeah.
scoop them up. So
Any last comments about Todd before we wrap this up?
"In Todd we trust."
I kept seeing the word
Todd, my resume is
Todd
being,
Father. He kept
emailed to you.
calling himself the Todd Father.
That's funny.
The Todd Father.
He loves his name. He
Yeah.
really does.
So I'll say this, man, for anyone listening, because there was a few folks that hit me up pretty excited about this episode and what Todd McFarlane meant to them. And, they're all about our age, so it makes sense that during the height of Image Comics that a lot of friends that we know, a lot of listeners that listen to this show would be excited for Todd McFarlane. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Go ahead.
And he sorry to interrupt, but he inadvertently kind of, that Image, Exodus kind of got the companies to start really contracting artists and writers and stuff too. So now you're seeing exclusive artists and writers, whereas before people were bouncing back and forth all the time.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you for highlighting that. So I'll say this, man, if you have any comments, story to share, your first experience with Todd McFarlane, a memorable one that you want to share with us, please shoot us an email at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. Hit us up on our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search The Shortbox Jacks, Jax, or leave us a voicemail on our Google voicemail, 904-580-4095. And if you want to partake in helping us pick our next artist spotlight, or just want to support the show or get bonus content that we haven't put out to the general public, consider becoming a Shortbox patron. Visit patreon.com/theshortbox. We have different tiers for different budgets, bonus content, merch, and the ability to help us vote for different episodes. I'm thinking next artist spotlight will probably be here in about a month. Speaking to the team, we definitely want to continue these episodes. They're some of my favorite episodes for sure. A lot of you guys have continued to sing praise about the Stan Lee episodes, so we want to continue to give you guys the episodes you want and have a good time. So with that being said, man, thank you guys so much for listening. Find us once again social media, hit us up on the email, and stay tuned next week for another episode. All right, peace.
Yo, what happened to peace? Peace.